Hi, Scotty Sanders here, Facebook Live. I hope you're able to join it, check it out, and I'm excited to share this topic. This is actually episode 36, and I'm going to be sharing with you, this is part one, be two parts. Part one of how to resolve conflict. So I talk about these 12 steps, or the steps I somewhat refer to as like a template on how you can resolve conflict. So again, tonight I'll be discussing with you part one, which will cover 6 of these steps. Before I get there, I just want to remind you, my name is Scotty Sanders. I'm an international leadership consultant, and I love to get to develop people. I help them to live better, to lead better, and hopefully to finish well in life. So that's what I love to get to do, and that's really the theme behind the Facebook Lives that I do. So let me share one piece of big news to you about Quest of the Keys. People are always asking me about updates. In fact, I was speaking to a lot of students last week, and one of the questions they always ask, when will this become a movie? And we've been working on this for a long time, and nothing's really developed here until recently. We've been working with some folks out in Hollywood, and we're at that place now that we're working with Hollywood writers of developing a movie script. So I just received today, we've been working through the outline, just received today the first draft of, not the outline, but the actual script. And so I actually read about half of it this afternoon. When I wrap up tonight, I'll finish it later tonight. And then we've got our writing team that will be reading through that and making some notes and providing feedback, and we'll pass that feedback on to the Hollywood writers. And the hope is that by the end of the year, we'll have our final, not draft, but final version of the movie script. And again, it's a process after that of marketing that and getting that out to potential movie houses that would want to produce it and make it a movie. But we've taken a big step in getting it on the silver screen. So I wanted to give you an update about that. So just keeping you posted, but some really exciting news. And it's exciting to see, taking a book and now putting it into another art form, another creative way to get our message out. So really excited. So let's dive in and talk about these 12 steps in resolving conflict. And again, when I say this operates like a template, it's this. It really gives you a resource when you're about to deal with conflict of a good way to kind of make sure you're following these different steps. And they're not necessarily linear, okay? So you may not do all 12, but it's a really good path to follow when you're dealing with conflict. So here's the first step. The first step is learn to embrace and resolve conflict. And let me say why. Tell you why that's so important and really foundational in dealing with conflict. It's because conflict is really part of life. We have conflict every day. I can't remember a day that I've not had conflict. Even when Cindy and I go off on a vacation together, now there's potential for conflict, right? It can be in your marriage, it can be with your kids, it can be with your grandkids, it can be with your siblings, it can be with people you work with, it can be with your friends. So conflict is part of life. But how you deal with conflict is how you have success in life. So learning to embrace conflict is just critical, because you can either do one of two things. You can do what I call flight. You run from it and completely ignore it, and it doesn't go away. You think by running from it is just going to disappear. It just makes it worse because it's unresolved conflict. And the other way, which can be just as bad if not worse, is so it's flight or fight. Okay, so remember that, flight or fight. Neither one of those are good. And this is what I say. The leader, the big person, is the one that should be proactive. Take the first step in resolving the conflict. But let me go ahead and say this to you. If you enjoy conflict and dealing with conflict, that's not a healthy person, all right? It's not something you should ever enjoy doing, but you should embrace it. It's like a friend. It's part of what you deal with in life. So learn to embrace and resolve conflict. Now here's the second one. Address your anger appropriately. And appropriately would be, you can get angry because of the situation, but if you don't handle it appropriately, you'll end up doing some things to make it worse, okay? You could get physical. You could start saying some things that are not true, that you don't really mean. You could start talking to other people that are not involved in the conflict. And then you're gossiping and maybe slandering another person. So you've got to, address your anger in an appropriate way. that it's done the right way. Listen, I get angry sometimes, but how I handle that anger is really, really important. Don't make it worse because you handle your anger in an inappropriate way. Here's the third one. Seek understanding, not victory. Now let me put on a timeout real quick. I'm going to share with you, this is part one, so I'm going to share 6 of these with you, and every one of these I share with you tonight, and probably the ones I share with you next week, I struggle with. It's ones that I've had to work on. I have to watch myself. I've been guilty of violating all of these steps over the years, but I'm better now than I was 20 years ago, and I'll be better in the future in dealing with this. None of us are perfect because we're dealing with our emotions, and it hurts, and it's painful, and it's scary, and we're nervous about it. That's just reality. That's just part of life that we deal with it. So it's not perfection here, but I think this third one it's important. Seek understanding and not victory. And I can remember there was a time in my life when I felt someone wronged me and it was a conflict. I didn't want understanding. I wanted to win and maybe even crush them or put them in their place. And that was just wrong. It's wrong on my part. In some ways, how I was responding, or I could say reacting to that situation, was worse than what the person did that caused the conflict. So learn to listen, seek understanding, not to win. And that's the third one. The fourth one is assume the best. I've been guilty of that one before. When someone's done something, sometimes I'll just assume they have bad motives. And I've just learned to say, you know what? I'm going to assume the best until I find out something different. So I'll even, someone else may know about the situation as well as me, and that other person may be saying, I can't believe they do that. And I try to point them and say, well, listen, maybe we don't understand all the facts. We don't have all the details. I may even help that person to grow in that. Again, I used to be the other person where I'd be stirring it up and assume the worst. Vain imaginations. Be careful about vain imaginations. So don't jump to faulty conclusions. Assume the best until you find out something different. And then number 5, learn to share your feelings fittingly. Okay, I know that's a weird word. It's the best word I could come up with. It was the most fitting word for that. Fittingly. Learn to share your feelings fittingly. Becoming overly emotional will be very unproductive. Don't let your emotions rule in that. If they do, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Now, there's times that there may be a conflict. In fact, I say this to Cindy sometimes, my wife. What you said or what you did made me feel this way. If I do that in a calm way, she'll receive that. But if I do it in a highly emotional, highly charged way, then that can be really unproductive or counterproductive in getting resolution and getting it resolved. Okay, so learn to share your feelings fittingly. All right, and then here's number 6. Watch your tongue. Ask, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If it's not, if it doesn't pass those 3 tests, don't say it. Watch your tongue. Your tongue can be a very, let's just say, damaging tool that you have. Your words can do damage. They can be a curse to people. You can curse people with your tongue. You can say some awful things about a person. You can slander people. You can gossip about them. Be very careful. Watch your tongue. Think about how painful it is when someone says something bad about you. So think about that. It's practicing somewhat the golden rule here. Do you want people to treat you a certain way or say certain things about you? Well, then why would you do that to them, right? And I want to share one little personal story. This has got a little history behind it, but I can remember having a conflict. This is going back about 14 or 15 years ago. Someone that I worked pretty close with, and it's something that I confronted this person about, and I really wish I would have followed these 12 steps back then, because I did not, and I probably didn't do it the best way. But this person felt somewhat under attack because they were being confronted and they weren't used to people confronting them. And so this person retaliated back at me about talking very negative and told some lies about someone in my family and started attacking them. And the reason they did that, because they knew if they attacked me, it wouldn't bother me if they attacked me. But when they attacked a family member, it wounded me. It was untrue. It was just not right. And listen, I've forgiven that person, but I've not forgotten what that person did, because those words were very painful, because I knew when that person started saying those things, that person was out to hurt me. That's why that person did that. So I just would say to you, be careful with your words. Watch your tongue. Be careful what you say. Ask, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If it's not, don't say it. So those are the 6 of the 12, the 12 steps to resolve conflict. So I covered 6. Next week in episode 37, I'll share with you the other 6 and come to a place where you'll get a better understanding of really what's the goal even behind dealing with conflict. But just remember, conflict is part of life. It's what we deal with. And how you deal with conflict is important. And if you say if you don't deal with conflict, you are dealing with it. You're just dealing with it the worst way by ignoring that. But if you don't deal with it appropriately and the right way, it can be more damaging. All right. Now listen, if you know someone that you think this talk would be helpful to, let me encourage you to send this to them, share it, pass it on to the others. I get to talk on this subject to a lot of people all over the world. I've been in different continents that this talk I have given. And usually I'll unpack this in about a 2-hour seminar. So I'm giving you just kind of the cliff notes. But it's something that people struggle with in every country that I've run into. They struggle with it. It's difficult. It's not easy. We lose sleep over this. It makes us anxious because we're dealing with people. But we've got to learn we got to deal with conflict. We've got to embrace that. But we've got to make sure we do it the right way. All right. Well, listen, I hope you're off to a good first of the week. Remember what I always say, Mondays should be double Mondays. Get a lot done on Mondays. It makes the rest of the week go better. And I'm going to keep leading well until next time we get together. So have a good rest of your week. Take care.